Hello everyone, and welcome back here to The Light Between Us, a special here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of our partnership with Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. And in The Light Between Us, I get to spotlight a team member from Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. Every single month we get to have some fun with the teams here that are led by Jim Rsikowski. I have Mikayla Holmes here with me today. Of course, I'm Dan Tortora, and I'm happy to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, Mikayla. So, first and foremost, how'd you get here? How'd you get to Chick-fil-A?
So I was working at the gathering place where I go to church, and I was a preschool teacher at the time for 4s and 5s. And I wanted a part-time job just because the preschool was part-time. So I knew a lot of people that worked at Chick-fil-A, the pastor's son, a lot of friends, and so they all told me that they loved the culture here, that it was really great. So I interviewed, or I applied, and then interviewed. That was about a little over a year ago. So
A little over a year ago.
Yeah.
So happy 1 year anniversary at Chick-fil-A.
Thank you.
What's the past year taught you?
A lot. It has been challenging at times, but in a good way. And I love Jimmer and all the leadership here. And they've helped to push me, and took a break for a little bit in the summertime, then came back, and so it's been really good, and it's helped me grow.
You said it's helped you grow. How?
So I've in the past worked at places where there aren't a lot of Christians, so I think that's been one really good thing about working here, also at the church, but I don't work there currently anymore. So I think being around Christians has helped me in that way, in my spiritual growth. And then also,
Okay. So it's helped in your spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And in other ways, where do you feel like it's helped you?
I've never worked in an environment like this before.
Okay.
Like I said, Walmart customer service. So I've always worked with, customers, now here guests.
Yeah.
But
How different is it though, like to have, there's guests and customers, just using that word. I've worked with companies where that was big, right?
Yeah.
Is that these aren't our customers, these are our
Right.
guests, because you treat guests in your house differently
Right.
than you would treat a customer.
Yeah.
So how would you define having guests and not just customers?
Yeah. So even though I would have customers over there that would come by often and I would know them, here it's more personal.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to know them more here. I'll be in dining room and I'll be able to have a conversation with a regular guest that comes through all the time, which is super cool because they appreciate that here and they want you to form those relationships, where at other places it's kind of like, all right, get them their food, if they need anything else, cool, but don't, form that relationship, just work. Where here, they do want you to have that personal relationship, which is really cool.
How rewarding is that for you, that at Chick-fil-A it's not about turn and burn, right? Just bring people in, get them out, but to actually build relationships that they care about that here.
Yeah, I really do love that. There's one in particular, Annie, her and her daughter always come through, and I love them. And last week we did Sunshine Week for the guests, and I was able to give them some flowers, and they really appreciated it. And I think the other guests think it's really cool too when there's that relationship there, and they're like, oh, you know people by name here? And I'm like, yeah, we try. So that's just been really cool.
Do you have, be it with Annie or somebody else that has made such an impact on you, a guest that's come in, that you can look back fondly on that memory? Is there a moment or two?
I've had some good conversations with Annie. It was funny because her daughter, I accidentally called her her granddaughter one day. So then we got into the conversation, and her daughter, Ezra, she actually was I was volunteering at BBS one year, I've done it the last couple of years, but her daughter was actually there the first time I'd ever volunteered. She was in my group, and so we were able to kind of conversate about her daughter, and had a really good conversation. I did have to walk away at that point because it was about 10 minutes, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go clean some tables. But we've been able to form a really good relationship, her specifically, so that's been really cool. And I always love seeing her daughter too. When she gets out of school, she's comes multiple times in a day sometimes, and I've accidentally said that to her daughter, and she's like, oh, you weren't supposed to tell her, but
So, having that personal relationship, right, and that connection is so much different than just having a customer like we were talking about. So, to be that, with this being the light between us, how do you shine your light when you're around guests here at Chick-fil-A and in general in your life? How do you shine a light?
I try to show Jesus' love first and foremost. And like I was telling Jimmer one day, they might not always know that that's the love that I'm trying to give to them. But just in little ways, last week, like I said, for Sunshine Week, and actually this whole month, I've been trying to write on guest bags or their cups or their trays, just nice little encouraging notes just to show them love, because you never know what kind of day they're having. And then just checking in on them. I love dining room because I can talk to the guests a lot, and that's been really great. And just showing them the love and kindness that they wouldn't get at another food place or at another, maybe any other place they go that day. Asking them how they are, all those things. I just try to love on them. And like I said, it's God's love, and they might not know that, but who knows what, So
you're hoping that in showing love that is God's love to you and trying to pay that forward, that somehow that message gets through. When you say that you write little notes, what inspired you to do that?
Well, they had told us that we were going to start doing something called Sunshine Week, and they were giving some examples, and I was like, that is so cool. And actually another team member here, Nicole, she was telling me that she went to a Chick-fil-A, some other state that she was in, for vacation, and they were doing that, and she goes, I thought to tell Jimmer that we should do that here, but then I heard that, and so kind of before it started, I started doing it, and then other people started doing it, and it was just kind of a chain reaction, and it was really rewarding and fun to do.
What do you think a note like that could do for somebody, a little simple message?
I think you could do anything. If someone is already having a great day, then, maybe it's just oh, that was sweet, that's cool. Or maybe some people don't even see it. But for someone that's, having a really hard day, I was having a rough couple of last weeks. And so I was thinking oh, well, if I was just going about my day and then someone gave me this and it said something really encouraging that, touched me, it could change their day, change their week, really make their week, something like that.
You talked about Jesus' love, and it's I don't know if you saw it or if you saw it watching, but I took a breath when you said that, because I've always been that way. I've always been close to God no matter what, and my grandfather's passed away both when I was 6. That was probably my toughest time, but when I hear somebody else say Jesus, say God, say the Holy Spirit, say anything of that, it's just, I do, in today's world, I just sigh happily to hear somebody else say it. How much does that mean to you when you meet somebody else and they're not whispering Jesus, they're not hiding God, but they're saying, hey, I believe, I'm proud to believe, it makes me excited. What does that mean to you, and what does that do for your spirit?
It does mean a lot to me too. My grandfather passed away when I was 9, and I actually lived with him and both my grandparents and my mom until he had passed away. Then we stayed for a year. But and so I've been saved ever since I was little. But I definitely walked away in my teenage years, and within the past couple of years, I got rebaptized almost a year ago, and have really gotten more into my faith. So, a couple of years ago, I probably would have, whispered it, or, I'm a Christian, but, it didn't really mean much. So now, I think finding other people that are Christians is so rare, and that are truly living like it, because you can be a Christian, but that doesn't mean that you're walking in that daily. So I think to find other people like that is truly something special, and it's exciting, and it's nice to be able to talk about it, and, have people that can relate in that way, and have the same views as you and all that.
That's what the light between us is. It's letting you all know that you're not alone, and letting us know that we're not alone. And so your faith, you said when you stepped away, was that because of when your grandfather had passed? Did that have something to do with it? What had to do with kind of your adversity in faith?
I've been talking a lot with people lately about how kind of at this age, because I'm 20, is when you, maybe a little bit younger, is when you start to make it your own. Because I think when you grow up in a Christian home, a lot of times it's kind of like your parents' faith or grandparents' faith or whoever. But then I think there comes a point where you have to choose that. So when my grandpa passed, I didn't grow up with a dad, so my mom got married a couple years later, and that was a very hard time for me, and met my dad, and that was a whole mess too. And so I strayed away and was very much into boys, and that was my whole identity. That was all I cared about, and that was throughout probably my whole teenage years. And then about probably 3-ish years ago, I was dating a boy and went very badly. He wasn't a Christian, and we broke up, and then I hit my rock bottom. I had been in one relationship before, and I thought that I could kind of take people and make them come to church with me and whatever, and make them Christians that my family would approve, but that whatever. So yeah, when that happened, I was like, okay, I don't want to keep living like this. I don't want to keep, putting my identity into a boy that's not going to fill the hole that I have in my heart, right? So that point, I had just prayed one night for peace, and just in that moment, I prayed more than that, but I truly did feel it, and I felt okay, and I was like, all right, I need to get back into this. My family had been praying for me this whole time when I had walked away. I had still been going to church, so I knew everything, but it was just actually applying it. So I started enjoying church again, and then this was around probably when we were going back to church after COVID. We got a new pastor, and he has helped me so much through a lot of things, and so that was a great change. I think that helped me to grow a ton. I started getting community. I started eventually, a year later, working in the church, so that was an amazing thing. So just, I don't remember what the original question was, but.
No, I mean, thank you for being so open and so honest with that. I mean, it's your journey, and you told it so beautifully, but so honestly. Yeah. And I think, people need to hear that. And we've told so many different stories here that have had so many roads to get to faith. And it's beautiful that you can know who you are, know where you were focusing your energy, and now know where you are focusing your energy. So you said hey, I put it all into boys, put it into relationships, whatever. Where do you focus your energy now?
On God. And I, for about 2 years, was single, and now have a boyfriend who is a Christian and loves the Lord, and that's amazing. But I really put my time into God and finding good Christian girls that I could rely on to, help push me towards God, and now hopefully I do the same for them. And I put a lot of time into church, into serving, and into creating a relationship with my pastor, and letting him in on some stuff that I was struggling with and that was going on in my life and all that. And just finding good mentors, also older ladies that are Christians and could kind of walk with me through all of that. And yeah, just relying on God a lot more and putting all that energy that I was putting into all those worldly things into Him.
Do you feel better, less stressed, more calm, more peaceful now that you put the energy into God and not into worldly things?
Yeah, so much more peaceful, because all those things don't satisfy, and I have been there, and I can say that 100%. So, yeah.
You said you have people around you to help push you and keep you in the faith. Do you feel that you've grown strong enough to help someone else? So as you've needed people to push you, do you feel like you can now help others?
Yeah, I do. I think there's still a lot of growth that can happen, but there's actually a girl here that's been coming to church with me for a couple months, and it's been so cool to see that. She's a high schooler, but she's very mature. She reminds me a little bit of myself and all that, but yeah, so she's been coming for a couple months, and got saved actually also probably a month or two ago, and is thinking about getting baptized. So that's been so encouraging to see, and just to know that God placed people in my life before to help me, that hopefully I'll be there to continue to help her. So that's been really cool.
You talk about, and a lot of people here at Chick-fil-A have spoken about being saved. How would you define what that means?
So in simple terms, I would just say truly believing that God died on the cross, or Jesus died on the cross for your sins, to have a relationship with you, and just praying and asking for, inviting Him to come into your heart and to walk with Him and to have Him walk with you, and then the Holy Spirit is within you, and that's like the, I guess, easiest way I would describe. And I guess it's hard to.
It's a difference
I don't-
between being taught a faith and living it,
Right.
and believing it.
Right.
So it's when you choose God instead of, feeling like it was chosen for you. It's when you make that choice. It's not necessarily a moment,
Yeah.
but it's kind of just when you, inside of yourself, say, "Hey, God, all of me loves all of you."
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how I guess I would say.
Definitely.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and at 5, I made the decision. I was with my mom in a hot tub, and I prayed the prayer. But yeah, I definitely, and I do believe that at that point I was saved. But I think that I did walk away, and I don't think I lost my salvation. But I would say that I rededicated my life to the Lord when I got older a couple of years ago, and wanted to make that decision again, just to actually live it and walk it.
I love that. Well, you've been so open. You've answered so many things that we talked about today, Mikayla. So I'm going to let you finish this light between us by asking me. So you can ask me whatever you want.
All right.
Anything you want.
Oh boy, the pressure. All right, what inspired you to start this and to get other people's stories and all of that? What started?
Well, you talked about being 5 years old and choosing God. Well, at 5 years, I've always had God in my life, and at 5, I started writing, and my dad's typewriter is a word processor, and I have it in my office to this day. And it's this giant typewriter, but it had a screen on it. And back in the day, you just had to type out the words, and if you were wrong, then you had to pull it out and start a new thing. So this one, you could actually see what you were typing. And at 5, I started writing stories, and I've always had a big imagination, always believed in God, always wanted to bring people together. So the light between us came from my relationship with Jimmer, where I met him before this Chick-fil-A opened here in Cicero on 7916 Brewerton Rd. So before this even opened here, him and I met, and I said to him, "We will work together," because I always wanted to work with Chick-fil-A, but with him I was like, no, we're too connected in our faith, in the way that we treat people, and the way that we are, that like I have to work with you, I have to do it. So the light between us was born out of our friendship, our time together, and my desire to show people that there is a light around the corner, down the street, a couple miles away. There's somebody that can help you by telling their story. So really the light between us is my way of reminding myself and sharing with other people that God does exist, that he does show up in other people, and that he's not as far as you think he is. So that's why I did it. So Mikayla Holmes here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Very special, the light between us, and with Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. We appreciate you being here, listening to Mikayla's story, a very honest and open story, and I hope that it moves you to find God in your life yourself and to help other people. Thanks, Mikayla.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So much.